Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's video. I'm still not sure if I'm doing a live stream later this week. I'll post within the next couple of days. Today's story is, I spoke with a being once who told me something quite disturbing by HorrorMode. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. It was 3 a.m. when my glasses jiggled at the vibration of the drawer, then fell on my bedroom floor. When the thud shook my room again, I sat up in bed and squinted at the window. It came from the backyard, but it seemed as if I could only hear and feel the ferocious noise, because neither of my parents nor my sibling woke up. If they had, Father would have rushed downstairs with a bat, little sister following behind until Mother stopped and picked her up. I sat and waited for another thud, and it came. My bare feet felt warmth on the bedroom rug, but it also felt odd, so I looked down to see that I had crushed my glasses. I poked my head out the door and saw no one in the hallway, which didn't surprise me. I must be the lightest sleeper in the family. I knew the heavy thuds were coming from outside because they had a muffled sound to them, as if they came from behind a wall. My little sister is braver than most of us, following Father downstairs in the dead of night to catch what they believed to be intruders, but turned out to be raccoons. I, on the other hand, was the easily frightened child. It was a running joke in the family that no one bothered to make inside, but I soon learned it wasn't a joke at all. Father would call on my sister to help him with things that I was supposed to help with. When that became frequent, I decided that I had to redeem myself, and the night the thudding began was my perfect opportunity. I descended down the stairs, tiptoeing and glancing back up in case my family awoke. I paused on every other step and closed my eyes, listening in, making sure Father was still snoring. My parents certainly wouldn't approve of my nightly adventure in the backyard, especially if I had told them it was because I had heard something, and my sister would have used that ammo of embarrassment for the next few years, laughing at me until her face was a tomato. I had to be quiet. When I slid, the backyard door closed behind me. An ice-cold zephyr scratched my face, and at that moment, I regretted my manly attitude and felt moronic for not bringing a jacket. With my back against the door, my eyes darted left and right, up and down, searching for the intruder. The noise he made, however, couldn't have possibly come from him. Again, there was a thud, and again, it shook the ground. My ankles buckled. Water shot up and waves formed in the swimming pool. Earthquakes were common in our area, so I'm sure my family and neighbors just dismissed it as so. But I knew otherwise because I was there, outside, feeling the thuds beneath my feet. You know, my grandfather once heard similar things. He passed a year ago and spent the last few months of his life insane. That's what my father called him, as well as everyone else, and I'm ashamed to admit, I thought so too. He lived with us and would wake up screaming in sweat, opening and pointing out the window. My parents had to hold him back, reassuring him that no one was out there. "Quiet," he'd reply. "I know what I heard out there. I'm not crazy, you are." The last straw was when my parents found him sitting on a lawn chair in the backyard, staring at the ground and murmuring. I once heard Mother on the phone with someone, explaining that she had heard our grandfather apologizing as he sat out there. He would constantly apologize as he stared out at the lawn, but no one was around. He repeated this almost every other night until my parents put him in a home, where he passed shortly after. In fact, he used to stay in the bedroom I'm in now. My old room was across the hall, by my sister's, and I remember vividly waking up at another one of his rants. I'd watch through my cracked open door, mouth agape, as my parents yelled at him and closed his window. I no longer believed my grandfather was crazy, not after experiencing the same thing he did. He was right. There was truly something hidden underneath our very own backyard, going bump in the night. As I made my way towards the lawn, a less violent thud sounded, kicking up dirt from the grass. With my ear to the ground, I closed my eyes and listened in. They shot back open a second later when I realized I could hear Father snoring, but his bedroom light was still off. So, I put my ears back to the ground. Moments passed, and all I heard was my heartbeat and a few crickets by the bushes. "Move, child." It came from the ground. I jumped up as my heart raced to exit my chest. I clearly heard someone say "move" in a very low voice, in an octave I have never heard uttered by man. Suddenly, a small hole formed in the middle of the lawn, and it grew and grew until it was the size of a small car. The circle formed without sound, and I watched as it ate the grass and dirt and rocks around it. When the formation ceased, a black spear arose slowly from within it, a head. A pair of glowing white dots appeared on the sphere, its eyes. It looked like a man, and it was like he was peeking over at me from within the hole, only his head visible, but this was no man. "Closer," it whispered. Whenever it spoke, it sounded like someone had placed a large speaker underground, or in a deep pool of water. I walked towards it, and from my distance, I was able to look down into the hole. The thing looked up at me, its skin as black as a strong shadow, and only its white, flashlight eyes distinguishable. From time to time, I saw its narrow arms at its sides, but not much else. My lips quivered, and I noticed my body was warmer now that I was near it. "Who are you?" With every question of mine came an answer preceded by a pause, and sometimes the thing wouldn't answer at all. It would just watch. But the thing did answer my very first question. "The one who dwells below," it replied. My body shivered. I don't understand. I was a child then. Thinking back on my conversation with that thing, it became clearer, including that statement. "Are you human?" I continued. It didn't answer, but what it didn't give in facial expressions, it made up with atmospheric change. Whenever I said something, I couldn't tell the thing's reaction because of its dark, expressionless face. When it spoke, I could see its mouth move and all, but I couldn't make out its emotions. Yet I knew my question insulted it because of what I felt in the atmosphere. The atmosphere changed and expressed whether the thing was angry or neutral. I can't possibly explain it, but its emotions were in the air. I looked up in my parents' bedroom to see their window glow yellow. They were awake. My heart sped again, and I worried the thing would hurt them if they came out in the backyard. "Can I go inside? I won't say anything. I promise I won't bother you again," I said. "Why are you afraid?" it asked. I looked back up at their bedroom and saw that the lights were off again. I knew that thing was the one who did it. "Did you do that? Did you make them go back to sleep?" I said. Again, it didn't reply. "Did you know my grandfather?" I continued. I had a feeling my grandfather knew the thing in the ground, and that this thing was what he had heard and warned about those many sleepless nights before. But something also told me that the thing in the ground knew my grandfather. Something told me it knew me, my sister, my parents, and even Rufus, our dog. It knew everyone. I pulled from my back pocket a little crucifix Mother had given me and closed my eyes. I was afraid when the thing met my questions with a blank stare, so I began to whisper prayers to myself, right in front of it. I opened my left eye to find that it was still watching, looking up at me from down in the hole, so I closed it again tightly, but then I heard something. From deep within that hole in the ground, that hole must have led to the center of the earth, that hole the thing called home, came distant and horrible cries. Something deep within caused a yellow-orange glow to rise, and my clothes dampened at the heat. "Who do you pray to, child?" it asked me. The crucifix melted in my hand and dripped onto the grass like water, hardened metal clanking on rock. I glared at the thing in shock, but I dared not to ask whether it did that, and certainly not why it did. "Child," it repeated, "to whom do you pray?" When it asked that a second time, I was eager to answer, lest my silence anger it. It looked up at the sky, and I looked up too and saw the starless black. It tilted its head, as if confused, then looked at me again. "Why do you look up for help? God is not there," it said. I am down here." Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.